Okay. Just go down. Go down. There we go. Okay. These are terrible whiskers. Oh my gosh. It wouldn't sharpen, you guys. Like, look at this. It won't sharpen. So anyway, I'm sorry about my whiskers. But yeah, it was just taking too long. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna hit record and it'll be what it is, right? So I'm supposed to be a cat. Meow. And this is like the worst costume I've ever had in my life, except the time that my mother dressed me up in a paper bag and put a pot on my head because she forgot to give me a Halloween costume. And we trick-or-treated with me with a pot on my head and a paper bag over me and my arms sticking out. True frickin' story. But anyway, hey, I'm Vanessa V, and thank you so much for being here. Thank you for coming to my channel where we talk about reigning over your life, conquering what's holding you back, and living life in victory each day using simplified strategies that work for you. And probably don't use the strategy that I used for these whiskers. I'm supposed to be a cat. I couldn't find my cat ears, you know? Like, you think you plan ahead and then you go to do it and then, you know, there's always something. So anyway, happy Halloween. It is Halloween this week if you are watching this real time. If not, happy Halloween. You can still get into the Halloween spirit. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about something that I haven't really shared with people before, really just because it's not something that I think about very much, especially because of the hack that I'm going to share with you guys in a little bit that we can all use in all circumstances, all situations. So I thought it was the perfect time to share it with you guys given the fact that it's Halloween, and there's just a cool lead up that I'm going to share with you that kind of has to do with it. So let's get boo it. So I'm not really sure how to broach the subject. I've never really told anyone this before. It's not really something that I think about a lot, but I guess I'll just get right to it and say it. Okay. Our house is haunted. Okay, now this is according to the two previous owners that we have been in communication with according to this house. What? About this house. So before moving into this house, we actually looked at another house, and that owner just, while we were touring the house, came out of nowhere and was like, by the way, this house is haunted. And I'm not sure if he meant that so that we would want the house more. I'm not sure. But we didn't end up getting it. And we ended up getting this one, obviously. And so when we were at closing and we were about to get the keys, we remembered what that previous owner had said at the other house. So we were like, you know, maybe we should ask the owners that we're buying this house from if maybe they think their house is haunted. And we weren't expecting them to say yes, and they did. And basically all they wanted to let us know, and all they wanted to say, was that the ghost would turn on and off the alarm and play tricks on them. They said it wasn't a mean ghost, it was just, it would play tricks. So we're like, okay. So before we moved in, before we moved anything in, we stood in the foyer and we basically just spoke to anything that might be in here. We're open-minded. And we were just basically like, hey, this is who we are. Nice to meet you. If you're here, if you're not, cool. If you are, we never want to know that you're here. And if you're cool with that, then we'll be cool with you. And yeah, so that's what happened there. And then a couple years ago, there were these four ladies in giant sunglasses who drove up to our driveway, and they were just sort of staring at the house. So I walked down there and I was like, hi, how are you? And they were like, we used to live here. And I was like, oh my gosh, you did? And they were so cute, so bubbly. And so I invited them inside because I love history. I had done a lot of research on this house, and I just thought, wouldn't it be cool for them to come in and just relive the past, but also for me to find out more information about the house. So about 5 minutes after they come into the house, one of them turns to me, it was the birthday lady, and she goes, so have you met her yet? And I'm like, met who? And she was like, the ghost. And I was like, no. And one of the sisters turned around and she was like, oh, really? Well, do you have kids? And I was like, no. And they said, okay, well, that's why. And they started talking to each other about it. And I was like, wait, what's going on? Like, who am I supposed to have met, not met, etc. And they proceeded to tell me, again, long story short, that they grew up here. They had no sense that there was any sort of spirits or anything until one of them had a kid. It was the birthday girl. She had a baby after college. She was here visiting, and she had the baby with her upstairs. The baby was in a bassinet. She was napping, and she heard the door open, and her eyes opened just a little bit, and she said that she could see this white nightgown crossing in front of her, and she said she thought it was her mother, but she was still sort of drowsy, so she opened her eyes a little bit more and realized that it was a full apparition of a woman who had come into the room over to the baby. And apparently she bent down and started cooing at the baby. Very lovingly, she reassured me time and time again that this was a friendly presence, a loving presence, etc. And she said after a minute or 2 minutes, or I don't remember, but she said that after a little bit, she just laid there, she didn't move. The woman walked out. And that was that. So a few days later, I guess, they all decided to have a seance in my dining room. And I'm like, you did what? She said that it was at night. They asked her to make her presence known. And all of a sudden, coming down the stairwell that is behind me in the Protecting Your Energy video that I posted 2 weeks ago, that stairwell, she said that there was this mist that floated down the stairwell towards them into the dining room, and they freaked out, they screamed, and they all ran out of the house. And that was that. They said, that's it, that's all we know about. And so that freaked me out a little bit. But what was interesting was they kept reassuring me. They said, you know, it seems like it's only triggered by having babies in the house, and since we don't have kids, maybe that's why we haven't met her or seen her. So I was like, okay, so all we gotta do is never have kids or move when we decide to have kids. So that freaked me out a little bit. Now, full disclosure, do I actually think my house is haunted? I don't know. For living in this house, I can say doors have shut, but when I look outside, it's windy. We have felt certain things, but again, I haven't seen anything. I have lived in Gettysburg before and some weird stuff happened. I've been in situations throughout my life where weird stuff has happened, and I've been in this house where weird stuff has happened. However, I've never actually seen anything, and that's okay with me, by the way. That's fine. So, according to certain people, my house is haunted. According to me, I don't know. But I will say that it was an uncomfortable place for me to be for a while, partly because of that, but also because it was a new space. And now it's much more comfortable for me to be in because of this hack. Because our brain, especially if you saw the scary movies, the stress and scary movies video that I did a few weeks ago, I'll link that below. And also some of the other videos where we sort of talk about how our brain is reading our environment. That has to do with feeling uncomfortable in your surroundings. So when we're in a new space, like moving into a new house, whether we think it's haunted or not, or we're in a space where we're like, oh my gosh, it's haunted, especially after seeing a scary movie or whatever, or we are going into situations like an audition or an interview, or maybe we are, because it's during the pandemic, venturing out, and we're just feeling a discomfort about our surroundings. And maybe we don't even realize it, we just feel uncomfortable, and it could be our surroundings. The brain is very quickly, as a quick recap, but also to go into this hack, the brain is trying to figure out its surroundings, right? So it's all about survival. So when we are in a situation that our brain thinks is dangerous or is new, therefore there could be danger that it doesn't know about, it's on higher alert. And it's trying to catalog everything. It's trying to pick out everything that is safe or that it identifies as safe or unsafe, whether we think it is or not, logically. So when that happens, when we are in a space that's uncomfortable to us, we actually have control over that by cutting that cycle and literally telling our brain, our subconscious brain, that there is safety in our environment. And by doing that, it actually helps us relax much easier. It helps to train our brain to relax in that space and to not be as on high alert as it normally would be. So let's go into the hack, and maybe that will help explain it a little bit better, because it really did shift my comfort level, not only in my house, but when I'm in situations that I find a little bit uncomfortable. Okay, the hack. So as we've talked about previously, feeling comfortable in our environment is super important, not only for our brain to just learn over time that it's cool to chill, but it's also just good for us. It boosts our mood, it makes us feel better, helps us feel more confident. There's a lot that goes into feeling comfortable in our environments. And especially for me, I think with the PTSD, having so many years, having so long where I was just in constant fear and constant anxiety, it was really difficult for me to relax, especially in just in my spaces, if that makes sense. So one of the ways that I was actually able to decrease my stress and anxiety levels was to increase my comfort in my surroundings. So a few years ago, after we moved in here, I thought I had done a great job with that, but I think being in a new space, a new house, that also came with it this story of there might be something that pops out and scares you. That definitely, all of that put my brain on a higher alert for mapping out my surroundings. And I was just having a really hard time enjoying being here. And that's obviously not what you want anywhere, but especially when you move into a new house that you're excited about. So I asked my trauma therapist, who's a trauma specialist, for advice in this realm, because I had no idea what to do for that specifically. And what she suggested to me was actually pretty surprising. And the effects of it were even more exciting and surprising. So basically, she just said that I needed to go home and get into the space that I felt uncomfortable in. So let's just say, for example, it was my living room. And she was like, just name things in that room that you like, and that's it. So that's the hack, okay? So I'm gonna expand on it a little bit more because it's become a little bit different for me, but at the end of the day, that's really all it is. And it seems so simple, but what's so great about it is that it is literally talking to our brain to retrain it to not only help it feel more comfortable and more safe, but to also help us just in general enjoy our space better. Okay, so let's do it as an example. Okay, so let's do it together. No matter what space you're in, go ahead and just look around and just name 5 things that you like about wherever you are. So feel free to pause. I'm gonna do it right now out loud. I'm just gonna say, I have a faux sheepskin rug right there. I have a plant over there. I like that. I have a clock on the wall that I really like. We just got new chairs. I like those chairs. And my 5th thing is I like the octopus on my bookshelf. Okay, so what did that just make me feel? Well, first of all, what did it make you feel when you did it? Because what it made me feel was a boost of good feelings. I just kind of felt better. It made me smile naturally. It sort of lit up my brain a little bit. Like I just felt more aware of my surroundings, it helped me be more present, like what we've talked about and all that stuff. But what it helped me really do at the end of the day was just decrease my anxiety and my stress. and increase my boost of feeling good and confident about my space. And thinking, oh, I'm surrounded by positive things. And that's really important because what that's telling our brain is that we are surrounded by positivity, not necessarily danger, if we are in fact in a safe situation. And that's obviously super important. So how I've learned to sort of expand this out and what might work for you too moving forward is to not only do that whenever you're in any situation where you're like, you know what, this feels uncomfortable, or I'm bored, or yeah, I don't know. But in any situation really. But how we can expand that out, and what I've tried and what works for me too, is not just naming things that I like, but things that have to do with what I need to feel. So if I'm feeling uncomfortable, I name things in my environment that make me feel comforted. If I am feeling stressed, maybe I name things in my environment that help me feel less stressed or possibly more relaxed. If I'm feeling down and out about my decor or whatever, or I'm feeling like my house is boring, naming things that are fun about my house. Things like that are true actually, once again, just help not only retrain our brain, but help us feel instantly better about our spaces. And I can tell you 100% that this worked for me instantly, and I still use this. If I ever feel uncomfortable at any point, especially in my house, if I'm all alone or it's nighttime or whatever, I go right into, okay, what do I like about my room? What do I like about the room that I'm in right now? And it just cuts that cycle. It cuts the fear that we talk about in that stress and scary movies video. And it just helps me be more present in my space. It triggers that rational thinking forward. It does so much. So I'm hoping that this works for you as well. No matter what situation you're in, whether it's boredom or whatever, I hope that it really does help you, because it really did make a huge impact for me in my stress and anxiety in just day-to-day life. Okay guys, I hope that this video really lifted your spirits. Don't forget that life is gourd, creep it real, that you are gorgeous no matter who you are, and I will see you next time. Have a wonderful holiday. Bye! Eat lots of candy! I love puns. Oh my gourd. Hello, Queen! Let's give 'em pumpkin to talk about. Book! That's it. Moving on.